have a big Halloween party this year. Oh, that sounds cool.
Yeah.
I love dressing up. What are you going to wear, Frank?
Oh, honey, you know I don't like to wear costumes.
Yes, you do. Captain Kirk.
That was a private party, Lieutenant Uhuru.
Come on, Frank, let's go rent some costumes.
Wait, what if I don't want to?
Well, then there'll be no more fun on the Enterprise.
Beam me up.
I just wanted to let you know about my study group.
Oh, don't be a fuddy-duddy. I'll be your study buddy.
I'm about to embark on one of the great challenges of my scientific career.
This work right here is going to change history.
I think this is going to be our greatest mission.
I don't have time to study. I'll never get into Stanford.
I got big plans for you tonight. I got maps, I got charts. I'm going to see you through this because my credibility is on the line.
It's at this point that you'll want to start taking notes.
Welcome to the Sitcom Study, the podcast where we contemplate the TV shows we grew up with and search for the truth and wisdom within the tropes and cliches. And Amy, what's the trope we're talking about tonight?
I was working in the lab late one night.
Yes, you made the genius decision to use Monster Mash.
That's right. Like every episode of these shows.
Yes.
Well, maybe not Happy Days because it didn't exist in the 50s when that show was set. We are having some Halloween parties, Jay.
Halloween parties. Yep, we're continuing spooky season. Look, Halloween is, it's a godsend for sitcoms. It gives them the ability to put everybody in weird costumes and stuff, all the things that they normally have to invent, weird dream sequences and travel through time and all kinds of stuff. Halloween just gives you a reason to do that.
Anything could happen.
Exactly. And I feel like the Halloween parties, like we saw last week in the Community episode, lets you just really kind of cut to the chase and just have like an explosion of references and disguises and things. And so it makes sense that lots and lots of basically every sitcom acknowledges Halloween, right? They almost all have Halloween episodes.
It's fun to dress up. Full stop, right? You've got a bunch of actors that are playing the same kind of staid characters week after week. Yeah. And writers that are writing the same kind of like boring, jokes week after week. This gives them a chance to do something a little bit different. And I think we have a good lineup here where we can kind of see how this trope plays out through the ages.
Yeah. And it also makes sense why the sitcoms would gravitate to Halloween parties, because it keeps everybody in one location. It's not like trick-or-treating or like going out on the town where you actually have to go and like film all over the place. Yeah. So I'll ask you, I feel like it would be foolish to ask if you've ever attended a Halloween party. I'm sure you've been to quite a few. Do you have any, is there a Halloween party experience that, if you were tasked with writing a sitcom episode, do you have any significant Halloween party memory that is, that stands out?
Oh, that's a really good question. I've talked about on the podcast before the time that I dressed up. So my neighborhood growing up was the neighborhood that everybody from the surrounding area dropped their kids off. So Halloween for me, most years was spent in my neighborhood, just roaming the streets and having a blast. I wasn't one of those like, I want a toilet paper and egg kind of people. I loved getting dressed up and wandering around with my friends and laughing and, telling stories and getting candy. And then later on, I liked giving candy out and doing the same thing. But yeah, so I'm going to say not really. I just have always enjoyed Halloween. Do you have one?
Well, kind of. I was the same way as a kid. Yeah, it's more about going out in the neighborhood. And then as a young adult living in the city or near the city, it was more like going out on the town, for better or worse. You get some real crazies out there.
Oh, yeah. There's some great, there's like every Halloween episode of How I Met Your Mother talks about them sitting on the stoop and watching the costumes, like the Walk of Shame the next morning.
But yeah, when I was in my 30s, I lived with my friends up in Westchester.
Oh, yeah, the Boulevard parties.
And yeah, to be honest, like, I was kind of a grump about it. I remember, like, the first year that I lived there, it was me and my 2 women friends, and they were like, what if we throw a Halloween party? Like, oh, yeah, that'll be fun. And I kind of thought that we would, like, start preparing for the Halloween party, like, 4 or 5 days before the party, and we'd, like, get all our friends together and get some, like, spooky Oreos and stuff, and, like, you know, certainly, like, have the costumes and everything.
These Boulevard parties were epic. Like, the whole backyard was, like,
the whole
multiple haunted
like,
areas and stuff.
They really treated it as a creative project and wanted to deck out the whole house as though it was, like, Universal Horror Nights or something.
Yeah, I mean, I've only been to one of them, right? But it was huge.
Yeah, and I tend to be grumpy about that stuff because that especially was the first year I was freelancing, so I was working all the time, and I didn't need a creative outlet. Like, my job was to be creative all day, you know, and having coming up with a nifty Halloween costume in and of itself, like, that's a whole challenge.
Right.
And so, yeah, this thing of just, like, every day we're going to be turning the garage into, like, a zombie den and turning the kitchen into, like, a spider factory. Yeah. Like, it was just so much work. Like, both, like, labor and, like, the sort of creative work that, again, I was just like, I don't want to be thinking about this. I'll think about it for, like, a couple days when the party is, like, that weekend. But, like, you know, early September, I don't want to be thinking about, like, what kind of spiders to be putting inside the belfry or whatever. So, yeah. I feel like,
I'm going to say Michelle and Amy's hard work paid off because those, I mean, at least the one time I came and all the years of pictures that I've seen.
Yeah, the parties were very fun, but yeah, I was kind of like a Halloween Scrooge, I guess. But yeah, so we'll get a wide range of experiences with these shows. It's interesting how this is not going to be one with a ton of overlap. We're going to have kids kind of throwing a party when they're not supposed to. And then we've got, you know, adult parties that are like, we've just got things that we're kind of all over the map story-wise is what I'm saying.
I will say, though, I think it, you know, because 3 out of the 4 shows have kids, and then our last show is, it's, you know, April and Andy from Parks and Rec throwing the party, even though it's the people from The Office, you know, at that party, it still feels like teenagers having a party kind of all the way throughout. Because even that grown-up party feels very teenage vibey.
Yeah, fair enough. All right. Well, what were our shows? What did we watch?
We watched Happy Days Season 2, Episode 6, Haunted, Step by Step Season 4, Episode 6, Something Wild, Home Improvement Season 5, Episode 6, Let Them Eat Cake, and Parks and Rec Season 4, Episode 5, Meet and Greet.
Yeah, this Happy Days episode, even though it's Season 2, it still starts with that great sort of like wide open outdoor set with that, you know, at least the establishing shots of like all the cars at the diner.
Yeah, at Arnold's Drive-In, exactly. And it's still in the days where they have the waitresses, you know, kind of
and everything.
Exactly. Like she was walking this time, I think. Okay. Maybe Season 1 is when they skated.
Yeah, but it's just this vast outdoor set. Like it just feels very real, very cinematic. Like they've
got water balloons flying everywhere, and you know, chalk and graffiti, like Halloween-y graffiti written on the walls and stuff.
It feels like it's American Graffiti, the TV show. You know, it still feels like it's not sitcom-y, and it begins with these like minor characters. This waitress, I don't know her name, and she's dealing with Bag.
Right, who's like, so the greasers, you know, like the T-Birds of the Happy Days universe are called the Demons. And Bag is the leader of the Demons.
Bag.
And well, that's his nickname, like Potsy and Mouth, you know.
Yeah, but Bag.
Who knows? Maybe his last name's Bogini or something.
Is his last name, by the way.
Is it really, or is it just rhyming with Ralph?
No, I think that's really his name.
All right, well, I bet bet this guy's last name is like Bogini or something, and they just call him Bag. Anyway, he's this short little shit, and he is, he's talking shit to the waitress about how he's going to write dirty words all over the wall, and she's just like, oh, yay, can't wait. And then he's like, you're not going to believe what we're going to do to this place. And she's like, ugh, she's so exhausted, has no time for these kids' shenanigans. And as she's walking away, she gets pelted by like a couple of water balloons and a bag of chalk. And so she's got shit all over her back. And you just feel for her. You're like, God, this is supposed to be this like nostalgia, wasn't it great back when kind of show. And I'm like, dude, our boomer parents, or even the people before that who were actually, young in the 50s, what dicks?
Yeah, well, that's why they're the demons, they're the menaces to society. Yeah. Ralph and the gang are planning a Halloween party. Ralph says it's going to be the best Halloween party ever.
Yeah, he throws one every year. Yeah. So he's got, like your friends, he's got a whole bag of tricks. He always got, has to do something different.
But here's the thing. This time it's not going to be crashed by those demons.
That's right, because it's not going to be at his house or Richie's house.
But, yeah, well, before we get to the location, I just I guess these demons have been introduced before, right?
I'm sure they have.
When we're watching it and you hear Bag and, just talking to this waitress, he doesn't go like, oh, by the way, I'm the leader of the demons or anything. So like, it just kind of, it's just odd with this conversation between Potsy and Richie and Ralph, where they're like, whatever we do, we just have to keep the demons away from our party. Like we're just supposed to understand what that is.
For a second, I was confused.
Yeah.
And then I was like, oh, that's right. They meant those, like, the
I didn't
greasers.
realize that Bag was part of the demons. I just got from the context that the demons are like their enemies that they want to keep out of their party. And so, yeah, they decide this is Ralph's plan. We're going to have the party at the old Simpson place.
That's haunted.
Everybody knows it's abandoned. It's haunted, and the girls will be scared, and they'll want comforting.
That's right. That's how he convinces Richie to go along with it, because Richie's kind of like, I don't want to do it there. That's, like, why would we be at an abandoned house? Like, I get it. We're trying to stay away from these demons, but, like, let's do it somewhere that we know.
Yeah. And he's like, no, we'll make it as scary as possible. Then the girls will be, putty in our hands. They assign Richie the job of going there to make sure it's as scary as possible. So, yeah, like in the 50s, were there not laws about trespassing? Because everyone in this show, including Richie's dad,
is totally okay with them going to the house. Everyone takes for granted that this abandoned house is at their disposal to throw this party. And well, it's like, I was kind of a little bit shocked by the whole, like, no parent put, like, Richie's mom, Richie's dad, neither of them pushed back at all about the kids having a party. Whereas, like,
at a house that is somebody's private property.
Right, but hold on. Having a party, full stop, right? Like, it was just assumed they were going to go have a Halloween party.
Well, they've been doing it for years.
They've been doing it for years and years, right? And so then when they say, oh, it's going to be at this house, not even a blink of an eye. Really? At the haunted house? Oh.
Yeah, that's Mr. Cunningham's only objection, is like, you do know that place is haunted, right?
And Richie's like, wait, you know about that? And he's like, yeah, it's been haunted since I was young too. And he's like, that long, So they had this whole back and forth about that. But so the legend of this haunted house is that old Mrs. Simpson was beheaded, somehow lost her head, and now her headless body haunts the old house.
Yeah, it beheads people and it threatens reporters to keep the secret of the beheadings. Because Richie asks, it's Joni who explains this. Joni and her little friend explain to Richie the myth of Mrs. Simpson. And he says, well, I think that would be in the newspapers if something like that happened. And she says, oh, the headless body tells all the reporters that they'll get beheaded if they write about it.
All those, like, common sense questions that we ask that then the mythology has to come up with an answer for.
But I have to say, just this whole plan of like getting the girls to come to the party, having them be scared. Like this, I don't remember really this specific episode, but I loved Happy Days reruns. The same time I was watching Charles in Charge, like that sort of tween age, like getting ready to start high school. And this was definitely what I thought like being a teenage boy was.
Was going to be about.
Hatching little schemes like this. Like, we'll get the girls to want to make out with us by going to the Simpson places. Like
exactly. This is ripped right out of Grease, or Grease ripped it right from
but
this,
it's just
right?
weird that these things have to always be in the 50s. Like, for me, watching Happy Days, there was no nostalgia. There was no just like, oh yeah, their haircuts are weird. And, like I liked Happy Days a lot, but the whole like setting of it was sort of over my head at the time I was watching it. I just liked these kinds of stories, these kinds of plots.
Well, I mean, look, there's the moment in Grease where they go to see some scary movie and Danny reaches his arm around and pretends like it's a spider or something on her shoulder. And she's like, oh, Danny, and goes to grab his arm. And then he's like, oh, Sandy, and like pulls her in. That's his move to like get her close. So, I mean, it's well established.
Classic move.
Exactly. Well established lore that you take girls to dark places and try to scare them so that they want to get close to you.
Yeah. So that's the legend of Mrs. Simpson. Richie, as instructed, goes to the house to make sure it's nice and spooky and it's got lots of cobwebs and stuff.
Right. He opens a closet and sees a headless body.
Yeah. We don't see what
he
sees.
No, but
first.
he tells us. He tells us.
We
in
just
the
get
next
his
scene.
like shocked reaction,
and then he runs out of the house and jumps into the car on the wrong side and pushes Joni over and is like, "Okay, are we gonna go?" And Joni's like, "You want me to drive?" And that's the button on that scene.
Yeah, but he tells his dad, because his dad, like we said, fully believes the Simpson house to be haunted. He's just like Tom Bosley, like sitcom royalty. Obviously, we love this character. He just, he's one of a kind presence, and that's what he would do: is sit in his little chair and just kind of remark on whatever Richie had going on. And his just sort of like fatherly advice is just like, oh, the Simpson place, like, you're crazy. That place is full of ghosts. But then when Richie says, like, well, I saw a headless body there, he's just kind of like, tut. Like, you didn't
He's like,
see
of
anything.
course not. He's everybody's downplaying Richie's fears. And then the next scene we get is Richie up late by himself in the living room with all the lights out, clutching a pillow, watching a scary movie that's on television late at night, and he jumps because Joni has decided she's going to sneak up behind him in her werewolf costume and put her big furry hand over the top of the chair and scare him.
Monkey hands at first, but they were yeah, and again, Tom Bosley as Mr. C, classic delivery. He like scolds Joni for goofing around. He goes, "Now take off those arms and go to bed."
And then, and so then he again downplays Richie's fears. He's teasing him about it. Oh, you're scared of that? Oh. And then lights go down and he tunes in and they watch it together. And then slowly, Bosley takes the pillow from Richie and starts clutching it. And then he leans over and is like, "It's too dark in here. It's bad to watch TV in the dark," and switches the light on. And then they both jump and scream.
The movie, it's one of these sitcom-y things where you don't see the movie.
You just see their reaction.
And you hear it. You hear this corny dialogue he says, an old movie. Richie says, "Oh, I'm watching an old movie." And so I'm just so curious about this. Happy Days, of course, made in the 70s, takes place in the 50s. 50s, not a great time for horror movies. And so I'm wondering, like, what kind of scary movie would he be watching on TV? And it's like, the way he's describing it, it's basically the story of Dracula. He's talking about the Count. He's saying the Count has 3 wives that'll bite you and suck your blood and stuff.
And he says it's a vampire. He does say vampire.
Right. He doesn't say Dracula.
And he says
vampire,
the girl
the Count.
next door.
Yeah, and so
he's
all
like
that
wanting
could be
him
like
to become, wanting her to become the next
Lucy
wife.
and Minnie, Harkin or whatever the characters from Dracula. But the dialogue you hear sounds like Slumber Party Massacre.
Oh, like it sounds like those ridiculous, like, what was that movie we saw in Bristol where it was like the 10,000-foot woman?
Oh, it was something like that.
And the dialogue was just terrible.
Yes, the dialogue was like some sort of modern, cheesy, like, oh, don't go in there, Barbara.
Yes.
And so, yes, very silly. And then we get the night of the party. Rich is dressed as a sparkly skeleton,
yes.
right? And
his costume was really interesting. It was, like a normal skeleton kind of jumpsuit, but instead of having the skeleton bit sort of painted on, it is almost like it was embroidered, but like it was like carpet kind of material.
But like
and then sparkles on top, like glitter
it's like
on top of
Liberace's skeleton.
Well, it's not that sparkly. It was like, sort of like glitter embedded carpet that was cut into the shape of a skeleton on top of the regular black jumpsuit that you would kind of figure. And I was like, I just kept waiting for him to put a hood on, and have the skull face.
Because it is designed to be like a glow in the dark thing. Like if you went into a certain kind of lighting and it was dark,
it would
you could dance around like that.
That makes sense. They never really did show us that.
You didn't actually do that. But I think that would be the idea. But Joni's costume, do you remember what she is?
She's a werewolf.
Okay, right. Of course, she's a werewolf. We already saw the hands. But she's got the thing. Seinfeld had a whole bit about this in the 90s where your mom makes you wear your jacket because it's cold outside.
Yes.
So, you're like this menacing werewolf.
Like, nobody's going to know I'm a werewolf.
Yeah, you're 4 foot tall. You've got some crappy jacket on and your dumb little shoes. And so that was, charming that little Joni has to go in her jacket. But then we get the proper party, right? We get the scene that, we're going to get in all of these. Like I said, the sort of atom bomb of costumes and references and just getting to take in everybody's deal.
I just could not get over the derpy dancing that we got to see in all of these episodes, right? The derpy dancing in this is all the couples sort of swaying together in slow dance positions. Not, the music didn't really have a good beat, so it wasn't like they were rocking, but also it wasn't really like a good slow dance, like intimate slow dance. It was sort of in between. So it just kind of like they looked so awkward and I felt so bad for them. And I'm going to say that in every single party except maybe Parks and Rec.
Yeah. I mean, they don't have the real music a lot of times on the set.
Oh, that's true. I didn't even think about that.
To edit it. And with sitcoms, especially, they're just going to do everything quick and easy and not go
that
the
makes
extra
sense
mile.
Because everybody felt like they were on a different beat. So them not having the music or not having any music at all playing for them to move to makes perfect sense.
Yeah, but that's in a proper, movie or a more better produced thing. You get some way to get everybody on the same page. But we Richie's date, I don't think we even catch what her name is.
She has been in a bunch of movies and stuff, but she was, I guess her name was Gloria in this episode, and she plays Richie's girlfriend in a few episodes. And then in like 4 or 5 seasons from now, she plays Fonzie's steady girlfriend named Ashley.
That's funny. But I wasn't so much interested in who she is in real life as trying to figure out who is her Halloween costume. She just has a sort of... The guesses I wrote were Guinevere, Maid Marian, Helen of Troy.
Huh, that's interesting. I thought she was like a genie, like from I Dream of Jeannie.
Okay. She just has this sort of lacy...
she has her midriff is showing and she's got this... Yeah, I mean, to me, she looked like I Dream of Jeannie.
Okay, yeah. I didn't get that. I got Guinevere, Maid Marian, or Helen of Troy.
Yeah, with her belly showing? I don't know about that.
Like sexy Guinevere.
Right, but was the 1950s. I
Helen
don't
of
think
Troy.
people are doing sexy whatever.
Well, fair enough. That did not read to me. I couldn't figure it out. It's dark and quiet in the Simpson house. We're going to get there's a lot of like pranks and scares and things
Jump
going on.
scares and stuff.
Well, but there's different layers of people trying to scare each other, right? So first we get Ralph emerging from a coffin a la Alfred Hitchcock from Alfred Hitchcock Presents, going, "Good
that's his
evening."
costume.
Yes, and yeah, so that's...
And then that same coffin gets reused later as the buffet table once you get into the party.
Yeah. So there's like a moment of tension there, but then he blows a bubble and everyone's like, oh, ha, it's Ralph. And the music comes back on and it's sort of...
Yeah, the big doors open and all the rest of the kids from the party come out. Yeah. And so they have this, they have the front door rigged up with this skeleton. So every time you open the front door and then close it again, like once you're inside, you close it behind you, the skeleton drops like right in your face. That's kind of the first jump scare that you encounter when you get to the party. And then Ralph emerges from the coffin, like you said, and then that's the,
So he does this for every guest.
That's what we're meant to assume.
Yeah,
because
so
all
there's
the
a
other
little
guests
like
are already
foyer
there.
mudroom type thing. And yes, and so you get Ralph in a coffin and then you get to proceed to the road. But that's the thing though, you don't proceed. The rest of the party comes out to you. And then they go like, oh guys, another person's coming. Everybody into the back room and do it all over again.
But because it's Richie, he's the last one, so that's the only one we get to see. We do see one other time in the background of a shot, somebody coming in the front door and the skeleton like coming and hitting them in the face.
But not
the whole
treatment.
Ralph thing.
Okay. One thing they do at this party that seems to have kind of gone away from modern culture is bobbing for apples.
Well, that's because spit, Jay.
Yeah, I'll be honest. I didn't even consider the spit aspect of it, and I think this would be a highly unpleasant experience.
Have you never bobbed for apples?
No, I think I did. I think I probably did, but could not have been after the year 1989.
Oh, geez.
Right?
I have 100% bob for apples in the 21st century.
I don't know. I mean, it just, I think the thing that I feel like is so quaint about it is the idea that you're a teenage boy at a party with all of your friends and you feel okay about sticking your head into water,
right?
And you're comfortable that nobody is gonna fucking drown you or just
oh no, that's 100% part of the fun is that you hold their head down for a second when they try to come up,
right. So,
and then but only just for a second, not for just long enough to scare them, and then they're like, oh
yeah. Ha ha. Yeah. I felt like I was drowning for a second. That's hilarious. Yeah. That aspect of it, the aspect just on face of shoving your head into water, not to mention if it's Halloween, if you've got any kind of costume and makeup or hair or anything, that's getting destroyed.
Saw Potsy had, a certain number of lines to be able to get this apple, and he had 2 tries, he was supposed to pick his head up once and then go back down, and then within a certain number of lines, get this apple. And I think because he had a microphone on or whatever, he couldn't put his head all the way in. The only way that you can actually get an apple when you're bobbing for apples is either to trap it against the side or to trap it against the bottom. And that means if you're going to trap it against the bottom, you are full dunk. You got to go in pretty far. And it's harder to do the trap it against the side, right? Well, so you see him as it's getting closer to the line, he sticks his hand in there and acts like he's splashing around, but totally puts the apple in his mouth, which is illegal, and his friends would definitely hold his head underwater.
I think this is just a one-take Charlie situation.
I think so too.
And, Anson Williams just got frustrated and decided to shove it into his mouth. But
they said, don't put your head all the way in. We're not going to dry you off. You're going to be soaking wet for the rest of the scene.
You can't mess up the clothes and all that. But that's the other aspect of it is just when Potsy finally lifts his head up and he has the apple in his mouth, in his teeth, and Ralph makes a joke about how he looks like a pig, stuffed for the pig roast or whatever. Yeah, it's dehumanizing. Like it does make you like a pig.
Jay. No, it's fun.
You're basically waterboarding
no,
yourself.
You are not.
As a
you
party
are
game.
just dunking your head, which dunking your head you do every morning when you wash your face.
I'm not dunking. I'm not submerging.
It's about the same.
I don't have my friends gathered around with me.
Look, man, you can be as ooged out as you want by it. The only thing that grosses me out about it is the spit.
Yes. Lots of spit as the night progresses. So yeah, bobbing for apples. Fonzie shows up. I guess he's the Lone Ranger and his girlfriend is Tonto. Is that what it's supposed to be?
You know what? That's interesting. I did not pick up on the Lone Ranger thing. He was like, what? I'm wearing a mask. That was Fonzie's costume. And it's just like a regular mask. But now that you said Lone Ranger.
Zorro /
it does.
Lone Ranger.
Now that you said Lone Ranger, I'm like, oh, of course. Because I just thought it was weird that his girlfriend was randomly dressed up as Tonto.
Got like a Native American getup. She does not speak really.
Well, they never let Fonzie's girls
speak. In tradition with Fonzie's girlfriends, there's a lot of him sort of like snapping his fingers and ordering her around. Like Fonzie doesn't get much to do in this episode, and so I feel like his antics aren't. He doesn't come across as benevolent as he sometimes does. The next sort of escalating scare is Richie being spooked again by the headless dummy in the closet.
They ask Richie to go and get something out of the closet, like more sodas or something out of the closet. And he's like, oh, no, I don't want to go in there. And then they were like, hey, we rigged up that dummy in the closet, so we got to get Richie over there to see it again. So he opens, he is being kind of shamed into doing this thing in front of all of his friends, even though he really doesn't want to, but he doesn't want to look like a coward in front of his girlfriend. And so then the whole group, the whole party watches him open this door, which should tell you right there's something in the closet.
Yeah.
Like, why is everyone watching me open this door? And so he goes to open it, and they had they'd rigged the headless mannequin to jump out at him, and he's like, ah!
So I guess this whole night, Richie is living with the knowledge, like as far as he knows, there is this headless, ghoul in this house.
But this is when he finds out, that headless dummy that I saw sitting there when Ralph told me to come check out the place.
Yeah.
That was something he had already put here because he was going to set up later. He just wanted me to make sure there were still cobwebs.
He finds that out now, but this whole day.
And by the way, the only reason Ralph would have sent him over there in the first place was to scare him because he was saying, hey, nobody ever gets Richie. Richie's never scared of anything. We're going to get him this year. And so from the beginning, it was send him over there, have him see things, get him scared, do more stuff to scare Richie. Like, we just want to scare Richie. That's the whole point of this party. And they get him, and he's scared, and he's like, all right, you guys got me. Ha, ha, ha. And then that's when the demon's jump scare happens.
Well, that's when it's not really a jump scare. It's sort of like a slow building menace. Like this headless, quote unquote, woman starts coming down the stairs, and so the whole party gets freaked out. But they do everything.
Yeah, Ralph's
they can.
like, I didn't do that one.
Yeah. They do everything they can to stop you from getting a good look at this thing. Like, they show it from all these weird angles and very briefly, because it's clearly all the weird proportions of a person that has like a woman's dress or shirt on, with
on
the chest where their head should be.
Exactly.
Or their head where their chest should be. Like, it looks very odd and unconvincing, even in the dark. But yeah, the whole party is scared. Nobody knows what to do.
It's Richie who's like, no, I know this is fake. None of this stuff that I've been scared of has been real. Yeah. I'm facing my fears. And he marches up to the dummy, and everybody's terrified because they think it's a real ghost. And he's like, you're not a real ghost. And he yanks the clothes off of him. And that's when we find out, surprise, it's Bag and the rest of the demons.
Bag and the demons. And I love Happy Days' portrayal of greasers of the local street toughs is like their whole beef in the first place is they weren't invited to the party. So their retaliation is to scare you by being a headless dummy. And then they just want to be invited to the party, and so they ultimately say, okay, you can join the party, and everybody's friends. Like, it's a very nice, happy ending.
It absolutely is. At the beginning, they kind of made them sound a little bit more menacing by, all the egg throwing and water balloon throwing and chalk and dirty language and stuff that they're supposed to be doing. And what Ralph tells us at the beginning is that they always come to the party and they ruin it because they get too rowdy.
Yeah.
Right. But which, we cut away from the party before that ever happens. But you're right. Everybody is a happy ending. Yay, because they got to be invited and we're all just going to get along. Yeah. And then we have what? We have like later that night when everybody's come home from the various trick-or-treatings and parties that they've gone to.
There's a little button with the family. Joni says, oh, the candy corn is the good stuff. Which, yeah, I wrote WTF on that. Like, I do not...
She also says, I better not lose one piece of red licorice, the other candy that you and I are like, gross, won't eat.
Yeah.
I thought this was so cool, right? Because the 1950s, people were still giving out apples, homemade cookies, all those like unwrapped treats that by the time we came along, that was a big no-no. Yeah. Well, this is 1974, even though it's set in the 50s. Mm-hmm. So they have to make sure that they're making mention of this, oh, you better not eat those things that are unwrapped. I'm only going to let you eat things that are wrapped. And Mom and Marion and Joni are having this argument about that. And so I just thought that was really interesting because that, like, had we been watching the Brady Bunch, they definitely wouldn't have had that conversation, even though that was kind of set in the 70s, right? It was like, it was more of I feel like it was more of this modern sensibilities coming to bear on conversations that probably wouldn't necessarily have happened so much.
Yeah, that's interesting. I didn't think about whether or not that would have been era appropriate.
Right, because it was in the 80s when we were kids that it was like, do not accept apples. People put razor blades in apples. And I remember that being like a big thing. And my mom used to be like, oh, but apples were, good because
nobody wants apples anyway.
Well, I disagree. Like, apples are good. It's nice to get like an apple at Halloween.
Yeah, I would not have been happy
with all of it. Of course not. You don't like anything fresh.
Throughout the episode, we also get, while they're doing the party, we get Mr. C back at home dealing with the trick-or-treaters.
Oh, yes. And my little internet search tells me that those 3 trick-or-treaters are Gary Marshall's children.
Oh, that's funny. I have in my notes, Mr. C asks for kiss from 4-year-old cowboy.
Yep. I was like, that one was the first one.
The little kid,
I was like, did he just say, can I have a kiss to a strange child?
He interacts with this little kid, gives him his candy or whatever, has some fun little back and forth. I don't remember what. And he goes, oh, that's great. Can I have a kiss?
And I was like, what the hell?
Yeah, like, why do you want that?
Can I have a kiss? No, creep, get away from me.
And then the 7-year-old fairy princess calls him a big ox at some point. I thought that was hilarious.
He tosses in the apple and she goes, you broke my cookie, you big ox.
Yes. So just lots of great stuff
and
with
the other
Mr.
kid,
C.
I think doesn't the other kid like give him a raspberry as he leaves?
Yeah, I don't
like
remember what
sticks
the
his tongue
other
out
one's
or something.
deal was. Nothing after the kiss. Everything's a blur after that. But yeah, so this was a good one. I mean, we got the thing of planning the party, the strangeness of having it be at this abandoned place and nobody
so weird. Nobody even blinked,
like
exactly. No, not a blink of an eye. Like what? Or didn't bat an eyelash about that.
But yeah, and you get, to an extent, look, with all the bobbing for apples and whatnot, you get a sense of what the party, the Halloween party would be like at that time in the 50s by way of the 70s. All right, moving on to Step by Step.
Season 4, Episode 6, Something Wild.
Yeah, so we've talked about Step by Step a handful of times.
Yeah.
It feels like we watched 3 different shows. Now, this is one we've talked about before. You were kind of into this.
Yeah, I liked
this
this show a lot.
I was not at all. I think this is one of those examples where our tiny age difference, our 6-month age difference, actually becomes like a little bit of a micro-generational gap.
Well, yeah, because this one is in season 4, and it's 1994.
Yeah.
So you would have been kind of at the end of your middle school
I was in
ages
high school by this
when
point.
When this show started.
Yeah.
You know, it would have been a latter day TGIF for you, where it was like a smack in the middle TGIF for me.
And I was just like Full House, Family Matters, like that was certainly not something I was super into at that time, but they were a little bit grandfathered in. You remember them from when you're younger. This one, I just had no room in my life for it.
Well, you had probably also kind of moved on to your Charles in Charge, you know, where you're like really into watching shows. But these girls are pretty too.
All right, we'll talk about the cast of this. Like I said, we've watched it a handful of times. I feel like we watched it for our blind dates podcast.
Yes.
That was a show that focused on the daughter, the girl from...
Which daughter?
Was it the girl from My Two Dads?
Nope.
Okay, because there are 2 girls that are about the same age, like 2 teenage-ish daughters, right?
Yes, but it focused on the third one who's younger than them in that episode. So, and I'll go through this again because you're probably not the only one who doesn't remember Step by Step. Step by Step is a modern day in quotes now, right, is a modern 1990s version of the Brady Bunch. You have like 2 divorcees who are raising children. They each have 3. And on the man's side, that is Patrick Dempsey. Patrick Duffy. Thank you. That's Patrick Duffy. And he is, you know, of Dallas fame. And then that's the dad. And he's got a son, an older son, a middle daughter, and a younger son, right? And so the middle daughter of that trio, she is more of like the tomboy of all of the girls once the families get blended. Yeah. And that's who had the blind date. And then in the mom's side, it's the other way around. You've got an older daughter, like I think it's 2 daughters that are older and then a younger brother. And those are the 3 that are on the mom's side. So you've got Karen, that's the brown-haired girl. You've got Stacey Keenan, the one from My Two Dads. And then you've got the younger boy, Mark, who is this episode kind of focuses on.
We'll get to him. So the other one we watched for our rapidly aging children, these 2, Duffy and Susan What's-Her-Face, they got together and had yet another kid. Right?
They did.
And so that's what that one was about.
Yes, a kid that's not even been born yet because that happened in the later seasons.
Yeah, and so it's funny. You say modern day Brady Bunch, and obviously that makes sense in terms of the premise of it. But here's the thing. Brady Bunch, I picture the Brady Bunch, I immediately picture like those kids together in the bunk beds or something, trying to figure something out or deal with a problem or whatever. With this show, it's all separate, you know, like I said, we've watched it 3 times. I feel like we've watched 3 different shows. I get that all the characters popped up at different times, but the whole sort of thrust of those shows, the one about the little kid was all about Patrick Duffy and the wife having to scramble to, teach
them about sex because they're asking about how that's happened. But you have to remember the cast of this show, it ran for a really long time. So they just kept getting older and they didn't do the thing of Full House where they got them really young. So like the kids that the girl you were talking about in the blind dates episode, Christine Lakin, she's got a podcast with Stacey Keenan. They do it's not a rewatch of Step by Step, but it's kind of like a nostalgia 90s television shows podcast, which I think is just great. I'm like, I love them. As she got older and as Stacey Keenan got older, Stacey like went off to college. Her character went off to college, Dana, and we saw less and less and less of the older kids. And then it was just like JT, who was kind of a loser, the oldest brother. He sort of stayed around, didn't really go to a real college. And you had Al, who is, that's Christine Lakin's character. That's the tomboy, sister or whatever. She kind of ends up being more of a main character in those later seasons. But yeah, and the one with the little girl, like, again, all the kids were older. So now we had to bring in this new baby, new kid.
Yeah, but I guess the point that I'm trying to make is that this doesn't have a sense, again, Brady Bunch, Married with Children, Bob's Burgers, The Simpsons. There's a character to the family. There's a certain vibe to the family. And with this one, and granted, I'm kind of talking out of my ass. I'm talking about these random, disparate episodes we watched. But I don't get that. Like, I get... Like, it just seems very random and, like, disconnected.
No, I don't think you're wrong, because the stars of this show isn't the family. It's not really the kids, even though the kids drive the episodes. It's the parents.
Well,
and all the interactions with the parents, right? And so that's what drives this show. The thing that I think is kind of interesting about this is that, to me, this is like a sexed up version of Full House, right? They've got all these kids, they've got all these grown-ups in this house, and then they just, like, the parents are always kind of flirting sexily with each other. In this episode, we have Suzanne Summers, who is basically like naked, and Patrick Duffy basically naked in their costumes.
Their costumes are like
Tarzan and Jane, but like in very skimpy, very
like,
skimpy.
I guess it's Tarzan, but
cloths.
he looked more like a caveman to me than Tarzan, which
well,
are two
that's what
different
he was saying. He was like, "Can I take off this monkey?" And she said, "No, that's the only thing that makes you Tarzan. Otherwise, you look like Fred Flintstone."
Yeah, all right. His thing is he's embarrassed by the costume. He doesn't want to do it. He's just like grumpy about Halloween. But like, starting with them, Patrick Duffy, like, I don't know. Like, to me, any one of the three Full House adult men, just like, give me Dave Coulier, Stamos, or Bob Saget over this guy in terms of personality any day. Carl Winslow, Alan Thicke, the guy from Family Ties. Like, you just think of the dad characters that we're talking about in the 80s and 90s.
Yeah, no, he definitely can't hang with
those dads. Who the hell is this guy? Like, why is he interesting at all?
No,
he's grumbling and going like, "Oh, I'm embarrassed by this, boo-hoo."
There's a reason that every time you see the show, it feels different. It's because they're constantly making changes every season. We're currently in the season where they have a cousin, that Sasha person.
Okay, but I want to go through person by person in terms of like who we are dealing with here, because we've got him that is just like, oh, his thing is, again, like, he's, like you said, he's kind of horny. Like, he wants, he's the opposite of Al Bundy. Like, he's horny for his wife, but he's like embarrassed by everything they have to do. Suzanne Summers, the mom, what is her claim to fame before this?
She is Christy from
That's
Three's Company. What are you talking about?
Okay. So it's, who's the other one that's SS? Sally Struthers.
That's from All in the Family. Yes. Okay. One was known for her size, and the other one was known for being a sex symbol.
Well, okay. I think she looks weird. That is just my personal opinion. I don't want to be rude. I don't want to offend anybody. I think this lady looks strange in this.
She had her hair
show.
pretty teased out. Like, there was a lot of teasing, like teased hair happening.
There's just like, I don't even want to get more specific than that. I just found her look very odd. I don't like her character. Like, is fine. She's just like, oh, let's have a good Halloween. Like, there's nothing to really like remark on. But so yeah, between the parents, you've got like a wet blanket and this like kind of odd looking lady. And then, yeah, okay, let's get into the episode. It's going to be about, they're throwing a party. The first real thing we get is from this older brother character, Cody.
Well, not brother, cousin.
Okay, cousin. We hadn't had much or any of him in the other episodes we watched.
Because this is the earliest episode we've ever watched. We've never watched an episode before season 4.
Okay. I would say this character is in the top 5 of most unpleasant presences
well, so he
we have
is
dealt with.
fully doing a Pauly Shore impression.
His manner is like surfer dude, Pauly Shore or, early Keanu Reeves type,
Yes.
like Ted from Bill and Ted.
Yes.
But like those guys had cool hair, kind of. Like he's got a mullet of all mullets. He's wearing like a sort of worker's jumpsuit, which, not that I guess there's anything wrong with that per se, but just like his whole deal is just like
he's always getting up to crazy schemes. So you have him for a few seasons as like the wild card, because like you said, they are searching for their Urkel. You know what I mean? Like they just keep looking for that. And then in later seasons, we watched an episode like this. Bronson Pinchot is in it. And he works with Suzanne Summers' character and basically does like a rehash of, Balky and the flamboyant character that he plays in whatever movie that is. And so I think like this show, as you said, they never really like click in and find who they are. And every few seasons, they do try out these new wacky characters.
And to me, this is just like a Frankenstein.
Yes.
Granted, it's not as bad as that witch show that we watched, but that thing of like, let's just throw together like aspects of existing shows, and that thing we talk about of like the white American family, just being locked in that perspective to the point where now it's just congealed. Yeah. And it's telling that there's no characters on this show with any ethnicity of any kind.
No, and anybody that
white
is like whitewashed, right?
Yeah, you start the theme sequence and it sounds just like the Full House thing, but this time they took them to an amusement park to do the Miller Boyette introduction instead of to the park in San Francisco or whatever. Like it feels so like, okay, here's the latest one. It's like, well, if they liked Backstreet Boys and they liked NSYNC, then maybe they'll like 98 degrees, like it's just so sort of lacking in like value to me in terms of like, what is the deal here? What is the appeal? So
you're not wrong. And as a fan of My Two Dads, watching Stacey Keenan on this show, and again, this is 1994, so I'm about 2 seasons away from kind of cutting out on this. The other episodes of this show that we've watched were past when I watched this show. So we really have only watched one episode of the show that I remember. And your critique is absolutely not wrong, but I wonder if we started earlier that it would be more palatable, because the girl who plays Al is really fun to watch, especially in her tomboy days. We are now already in the place where they're trying to move her on from her tomboy days. And Stacey Keenan in this episode, she's dressed up like Hillary Rodham Clinton, and nobody else on the show knew who she was. Well, I'm screaming it from the rooftops, but like she was this like very active feminist. Like in the last episode that we watched with her in it, she's talking about Ruth Bader Ginsburg.
Yeah, isn't this the same dichotomy we talked about last time? If there are 2 girl characters, one has to be a bubblehead materialist and one has to be the intellectual.
And the third one is the tomboy. And that's exactly what they've done here. But I'm telling you, you know how I am about people, like actors that I just like to watch.
Yeah.
You've got a few here.
Fair enough.
When you get an episode that centers on either of them, it's a better show.
Yeah. Look, I I will, keep the jury out on Stacey Keenan, but I'm giving the thumbs down to Patrick Duffy, to this Cody guy for sure. His thing, story-wise, is that he's got a giant gourd, right? We're tracking the trope of the Halloween party. They're throwing a Halloween party that's just kind of,
they do one every year,
granted.
yes.
And so he's got a giant gourd. And again, I feel like just having this like surfer dude guy say gourd a lot is just very like, I'm out of my gourd, man. Like, I just find it
Well, he's
annoying.
going for the Guinness World Record of the largest jack-o'-lantern ever. So he's grown this pumpkin at the local farm.
He's going to carve it by explosives.
Right.
So that's his thing. We get a scene just sort of like setting that up. And then we get this other character that I'm sure I've met briefly in some of these other episodes, but we get a lot of him, this younger brother, Mark. Now, it's funny you say they were looking for their Urkel, because to me, like, this is just a, like, big swing and a miss at trying to make another version of Urkel.
Oh, yeah,
and
with
instead,
the red glasses.
Yeah, but instead
this time
they made
white.
another version of Sally Jesse Raphael.
Yeah, look, they definitely try to nerd him up in the exact same way that they would do with Urkel.
Oh, God.
But it's not. But he doesn't have any. He's not trying to play Urkel. You know what I mean? He doesn't have any of those chops. So the wacky character is the cousin.
He is, and it took me a while to get a beat on this, because his story in this is going to be he has a crush on a girl, right?
Yes.
Took a minute or two to
crush on a girl,
figure it
and
out.
his puberty has started.
Yes. That girl is Michelle Williams.
There you go.
Pre-Dawson's Creek Michelle Williams, who plays this sort of like tough girl, bad girl at school. And so again, I'm not super familiar with this, so I'm going into this like, okay, clearly, he's sort of monologuing or telling the other characters or whatever, like, oh, I'm going to get this girl, whatever. But he's this kind of dweeby character where he's got, like we said, Sally Jesse Raphael glasses, purple, like knitted sweater, big pleated pants, just like very strange looking, strange manner. His haircut is basically the haircut of Sally Jesse Raphael. And he's got
he doesn't really have a mullet, but he definitely has like longer
too
hair
much
in the back. It doesn't look good.
Yeah. And so he's displaying this sort of bravado of like, oh, I'm going to ask out this girl. So I'm trying to acclimate to like, the tone of this. Am I supposed to feel sorry for him? Is this going to be funny? Is this going to be moving? Like, what's the deal here?
No,
like,
I don't think it's any of those things.
He starts coming on to her, asks her out or whatever. She, kind of disses him, moves on. And then he's like, well, what if I do your homework for you? And then like, convinces her to actually like date him in this sort of like
or be his,
can't buy me love-esque.
Yeah, be his date to the party tonight.
Yeah, in exchange for doing her homework. So then it's like, okay, he's kind of like a Machiavellian schemer, and he also starts doing like a dance. That's when it clicked for me, is he started doing this awkward dance thing that was like the kind of thing that Urkel would do.
Yeah.
And I'm looking at the hiked up pants and I'm going, okay, it's not as broad, but this is their version of Urkel. And that's very bad.
But it's their version of Urkel, right? It's because here's the thing. The whole point of Mark is that he intellectualizes everything. And so when he starts pontificating on puberty and what it means and how he is going to tackle it, it's because he does everything as an academic. So that's like what that first little monologue is all about. And it's not about confidence. His whole family is making fun of him. It's like, it's not about confidence that like I've got game. It's about confidence
like I can figure anything
that I can, out. Exactly. I can do this and I have this plan and I'm not going to get embarrassed because I have hormones surging through me. And that's, again, intellectualizing his own bravado. And so then he goes and is like, puts it right to her of, you're going to come with me because, I am going through puberty and I'm the man who's asking you, and she's like, yeah, no, I'm not. And then he's like, oh, what if I do your homework for a month? So, you just see him acting on that like academic study of what it means to ask out a girl that you have a crush on, you know, when it's, and again, we're going back to not the like, oh, it will scare them and so they'll have to cuddle, right? Yeah. But it's Halloween. And so everybody does things a little different and girls are more easy or whatever on Halloween.
Yeah, that is true. It does tie into that thing of like, yeah, if you're 13, 14, whatever, it's like, how does Halloween get you closer to the ladies?
Exactly.
You know, one way or another. Yeah, we get checking back in with Cody. He blows up his dumb pumpkin gourd thing. It gets applause. It happens off screen. It's just a sound effect.
Well, everybody gets, clobbered with
that's true. They get tossed with pumpkin guts.
Yeah.
But then they cut to the giant pumpkin all carved already, like just done by the art department. And it gets applause, like it was a real accomplishment that the audience saw. Like I just found that a little silly. But yeah, and then we get the party itself. We get, like you mentioned before, the two girls. One of them's a mermaid, and the other one is Hillary Clinton. Now, look, I recognize that she was probably supposed to be Hillary Clinton because it's in the 90s, and she's like a business-like woman. Yeah,
it was the headband, 100%.
Did Hillary wear like bright red outfits in the 90s? Because to me, she looked like a professional, like a business Annie, like she was wearing the red outfit like Little Orphan Annie with the Hillary like
I'm sorry that
tone.
You didn't recognize immediately that the headband meant Hillary Clinton.
No, I recognized
that's who it was. There's no question. It doesn't matter what color. She could have worn purple. She could have worn yellow.
Well, I guess what I'm saying is I recognized it, but I still thought it was kind of a weird costume.
The lob and the headband. And also, like I said, Dana, Stacey Keenan's character, is a, raging feminist. And she also, like her brother, is this wild intellectual.
Yeah. And I'll even give them credit. We've had 30 years of Hillary since then. I feel like she would not wear a bold red thing like this now in like a major appearance, but maybe in the 90s
all right,
there
fashion
was
police.
No, I'm not saying she shouldn't. The real horror of this Halloween party, we already mentioned last week how, the TV shows in the 90s cannibalized each other. When Boy Meets World is like putting South Park jokes in their episode.
Right.
In this one, we get Beavis and Butthead at the step-by-step party, and they are very disturbing.
Well, so this was a throwback to season 3's Halloween party. Okay. Season 3's Halloween party, the mom somehow, I don't remember, sets her daughters up, Karen and Dana up on these blind dates. And those are the boys that show up. And so this is 93, height of Beavis and Butthead. And these guys show up doing Beavis and Butthead, and they're good at it. Well,
they're too good.
Beavis is good. Butthead's not as good.
No, I actually think he's got the sound. The Butthead kid sounds just like him, I think. They both...
But anyway, so that's, and it was I remember we all talked about it at school. Like it was this huge big deal. It was so funny that, they had this Beavis and Butthead, just like a few years ago when Mikey Day and Ryan Gosling did it on.
That was different.
Yeah, but then it was like so viral that they went and did it at an actual movie premiere.
Well, I can't get behind that necessarily.
So anyway, what I'm saying is it was a big hit, and so they brought those two back this season.
I'm saying it was freaking...
I think you're just
unsettling.
cranky. You're just cranky about this show.
You didn't find those two kids unsettling? The Beavis kid going like, like all the grunting, squealing.
I thought it was very unsettling, but I knew exactly what it was. It was like
I knew what it was too.
It was so 90s. It was like what was unsettling about it is just how like cringy it was because it was so like such a moment in time. But it was like I eye-roll kind of, oh my God, I can't believe we used to laugh at this kind of cringy.
Just the kid that's doing Beavis, like, he just...
You're right, he is too good.
And he's got the kind of harsh facial features where you're looking up his nose. Yeah, and so, he's doing these grunts and squeals and getting really excited, and they keep him around for a while. It's not just like a one-joke thing.
No, they stay for the whole party.
Yeah, so it just, they also make jokes. If the character's name is Butthead, it's already a joke. That's already part of the humor of Beavis and Butthead. So when you have other characters go like, hey, get over here, Butt Scratch, and stuff like that, like, you're not making a funny joke. Butt Scratch isn't funnier than Butthead, you know? Like, it's a hat on a hat. And so, like, just like...
I love that saying. Yes, that's exactly what it is, though. You're so right. I felt the exact same way every time it was like, and they would punch it. They like all the actors that got it punched it like, okay, butt munch, and it was like, it's not funny. Stop.
Yeah. No, exactly. It's if anything is funny in there, it's that his name is Butthead.
Just call him Butthead, and then it's funny.
Yeah. Mark, aforementioned Mark, he's a punker, right? He's like a Sid Vicious type, you know, he's got the fake mohawk, he's got the baby pin or whatever in his earlobe.
Yes, the diaper pin.
Yeah. And he's got his date with Michelle Williams.
Which is so cool. Right? Just to randomly see, you know, a 14-year-old Michelle Williams. That was great.
She's Madonna, or just like a generally risque woman.
Right. She's supposed to be Madonna, but her hair is just her hair.
Yeah. And when the mom
she's wearing
asks
all
her,
black leather.
When the mom says like, oh, are you Madonna? She goes like, well, kind of. She'd be my hero, except she's such a prude. Yeah. So we're supposed to understand that this little 14-year-old Michelle Williams is just like absolute mattress of the town.
Well, they've already said that at the beginning. They're like, she goes out with anybody.
Yeah. So she convinces Mark to leave the party with her by kissing him. Then he says, wild thing, I think I love you, and does another little dance. And that's, again, it's stuff like that that made me go like, this, like, what is this, guys? Like, you have, like, you're making Urkel seem like a, you know, like a quality
master class character acting.
Really, like, what is this? Wild thing, I think I love you.
No.
Okay.
Anyway, so her thing is like, all right, well, now that I've got you away from this party, let's be really bad together. Let's throw these eggs at this house.
Yeah, we can see where this is coming a mile away. The old, you know, go with your friend to do something bad and then run away when the police show up thing.
But not your friend, because, you know.
Yeah, she gets him. Yeah, she, you know, at first he doesn't want to do it, and then he starts getting into it, throwing the eggs at the house. And it is, you know, like, it's all fakey and they're on a set and everything, but they're really throwing eggs. There is something like a little sort of like visceral about seeing them lob the eggs and the eggs smashing on the doors and everything. And then, police pull up. Mm-hmm. Michelle runs away, and he gets caught and taken home. Right.
And the only funny line I thought he had in this show was when he was like, "I know I look like a hoodlum, but I'm not," or a ne'er-do-well. I think it's his ne'er-do-well. Yeah. He's like, "I know I look like a ne'er-do-well, but I'm really a nice boy," because he's all dressed up, like you said, like a punk, and so she just thinks he's, you know, some street. What did you call him? Street.
Street tough.
The street toughs. That's right. He looks like some kind of street tough.
Yeah. The policewoman brings him home. Every time she's telling his mom what he did, she keeps referring to him as the suspect. He's going like, the suspect was throwing eggs. You know, there might have been a girl there too, but all we could see was the suspect. But yeah, so that's his, you know, once mom says, "Oh, we'll yell at him," or whatever.
Right. She's like, "Oh," he was like, "Let me go with you. I want to go to jail." And she's like, and the cop's like, "Moms are worse." And I'm like, yeah, no cop ever said that, but okay.
Oh yeah, this woman, yes, the whole portrayal of this, you know, this was not a hard hitting, you know, this was not heat.
No, absolutely not. And then, so, yeah, the parents are like, "What, you know, into the kitchen now, Mr. sister. And so they go into the kitchen and the mom's like, you better tell me, I want, spill it. What were you doing? How are you getting arrested or whatever? And he was like, Mom, I think I'd rather Frank take this one. And she's like, I'm your mother. Absolutely not. And he's like, Mom, it has to do with my sex life. And everybody laughs. And she goes, Frank, you take this one.
Yeah,
and she runs to the other room. I know. So weird, right? So she runs off, can't talk to her son about sex. And then they have a little heart-to-heart about puberty.
He sits on the table.
Yes.
In his, caveman toga thing.
Well, I noticed earlier that he has shorts on underneath it because it's so short.
But that's the thing, is obviously he wouldn't sit like that if it was truly just like a toga where he was just freeballing
No,
it.
but it was very...
It's still kind of nasty.
Yeah, it was very that's a lot of leg.
More of him, than you really needed to or wanted to. He sits away. Yeah, he has a heart-to-heart to him. Honestly, my last note is Frank sits on the table with the leopard toga, and it was all a blur after that.
Again, we have Mark, intellectualizing what he had done and intellectualizing his whole, repeating his whole puberty speech kind of from the beginning. And he, Patrick Duffy's character is but still, you got to learn to get that under control because, you can't let your head has to lead you, not your, and they make several jokes where they, almost say penis, but then don't. And finally, on the second or third one, Mark is I get it. I know what you're talking about.
Which is funny because they start off talking about your hormones, the dichotomy between your mind and your hormones.
Mr. Hormone.
So they have a euphemism for it right there.
Well, but that's the thing. They start off with Mr. Hormone and then slowly, say what's embodying that is your penis, but we're not going to say penis. And so, they come to what seems like, the Full Housey kind of ending. And then we get another button where Mark, he takes it one step further and he's like, oh, have you ever seen those meter maids or whatever? It's not meter maids, but it's something like that. It's some sort of random older woman that wouldn't necessarily be very attractive. Yeah. And he's like, gosh, it just makes you feel some kind of way, doesn't it? And Patrick Duffy's face kind of changes from we've had a nice heart-to-heart to, oh boy, we're not done here yet. And he's like, son, I think we're going to need to take a fishing trip.
Yeah, and that's that, like I said, that kid, nothing against him. It's not I think he's even a horrible kid actor, but he's not pulling off these are essentially supposed to be catchphrases and fun little anachronisms.
But the writers of this show never really got up to speed. Honestly, I liked the Cody character when I was young. I remember, first of all, he's very attractive. Second of all, sorry, dude, he's a model. You're just wrong on this one. But, so he was really hot. When I was a kid, I totally had a crush on him. And then he's got these funky antics and he's kind of wackadoo. He is the precursor to a Spencer, but Jerry Trainor's just better.
Oh, I mean, because they both have brown hair. I don't know.
No, because they're both wacky and have these wacky ideas and only serve to be a wacky character.
Yeah, but one of them is an idiot surfer dude, and one of them is an artist, a metropolitan guy.
They both play himbos at a certain.
Yeah, fair enough. He's Chef Boyardee at the party. That's his costume. Yeah, so this one, Tracking the Trope, it's not... The story doesn't focus on the party the way that Happy Days does. You don't have that. No, but we
definitely get awkward, middle school and teenager dancing.
You get some dancing. Yeah, the same thing. They just go, hey, everybody dance. We'll add the music later.
All you extras in the background.
Yeah. And you get...
And the audio mix on this was really bad.
It was strange. There were times... It's funny... There's the scene in The Social Network, the David Fincher movie where they're in the nightclub and the music is really loud and it's hard to hear them.
that was on purpose.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That is like lauded as like, oh, only Fincher has the artistry to really capture what it's like when you're making a deal inside a loud New York City nightclub. And I'm watching this going like, oh wow, this show is really capturing the din of a Halloween party.
No, I think it was just mixed improperly on the syndication or the streaming.
But yeah, I noticed that too. But yeah, you get the party fun and the sort of like backdrop. But to be honest, like the crux of this story is, this kid hatching a plan to get a girlfriend, going over to the dark side, and egging a house and then kind of getting in trouble. Like you really could have had that with or without the Halloween party.
Yes, the party just allowed you to have everybody else around.
Yeah. All right, let's continue with Home Improvement.
Season 5, Episode 6, Let Them Eat Cake.
Yeah, so Home Improvement's got a pretty spotty track record with us, especially one of us. One of us is quite fond of Al, but he plays a pretty small part in this episode. We're season 5 here, so we're kind of in the middle. Like, obviously it's not the very beginning, but I immediately noticed we're not in those later ones that we've had to watch where the oldest son, Brad, looks like Dolph Lundgren from Rocky IV.
No, he's still a little bit like, he's starting to look like a chunky Nick Carter from the Backstreet Boys.
They still at least look like kids. Like they're a different
and the youngest
age.
One, Mark, definitely still looks like a kid.
Yeah, like Jonathan Taylor Thomas is sort of entering his prime, like Teen Beat Cutie Pie era.
Right.
So yeah, like I'm just saying that everybody, we're 5 seasons in, but it's still in the context of this show, I feel like things are still relatively fresh. In the world of Home Improvement, Halloween is also the day of the Cable Achievement Awards.
That's right. For their local cable news network, they have an awards banquet just for the 8 shows that are kind of regular players at their local cable station.
Yeah, and so I guess Tim's arch nemesis is Irma of Cooking with Irma.
Yes, just like Mary's arch nemesis is Betty White, who in the Mary Tyler Moore Show, who has the cooking show on their same station.
Irma just runs the table every year when it comes to
no humility either. She's not a braggart, but she just assumes everyone is as excited for her wins as she is.
Yeah, she's Sally Field in the 80s, just like everyone loves me, give it to me. And so, yeah, they're all grumpy about that. And so really the shape that this episode is going to take, talk about your overlapping tropes. We've got, to kind of cut to the chase here, the kids are going to plan a Halloween party.
Well, not all the kids.
No, sorry, you're right. One of the kids, and other kids, other friends of his are going to plan a Halloween party when the parents are away because they're going to this Cable Ace Awards thing. So already we're checking off. That was one of our very first podcasts, the party when the parents are out of town.
Yes.
So we're definitely doing that trope.
Right.
And then we've also got the sort of bad influence friend.
Yeah.
And my God, have we talked about the Jim Carrey School of Acting? That is where this young man is matriculating.
That's so funny. I was likening him to the kid who played Beavis in the Step by Step episode, just because it's very broad. Obviously, the Beavis kid is doing a specific thing, but he's, they start making fun of him and calling him Senator. The parents do, because he's just he's such a glad hand, kind of guy.
This kid is called Jason, and the story sort of revolves around Brad bringing him home. Hey guys, meet Jason. He's my older friend. He's a junior and I'm only a sophomore or something like that.
Yeah, and so I'm going to hang out at his house tonight. Sorry, can't babysit Mark.
I had to look up, I had to fact check. This came out, I think, in 95. So 94 would have been the year that Jim Carrey has Ace Ventura, The Mask, and Dumb and Dumber all come out in the same year. Like, he is absolutely on fire, changing the face of weird white guy comedy acting for, the foreseeable
Tim Robinson
future.
of his day, if you will.
I would say much. Tim Robinson did not have, 3 multi-million-dollar movie
that's fair,
openings
but
in 1
nobody
year.
really does anymore.
No, that's true. But he was on the level of like a Woody Allen in terms of like having a whole,
Not a good comparison, Jay.
Well, fair enough. But having a whole like little subgenre of actors like imitating him and opening up
totally.
a whole other type, where, hey, we want a Jim Carrey type for this kid who is, yes, like a politician. That's what they all kind of joke about. He comes over, he shakes your dad's hand, and he compliments your mom and says he thinks she's your sister and all that kind of stuff. And Tim eats it up hook, line, and sinker.
Oh, yeah. He's like, he's a fan of the show. It's so great to meet another Tool Time head, you know? And Jill sees right through it, and she's like, he never watched that. He's just buttering you up. But Tim's like, nah, he's a good kid. He's a good kid. And so Jason is the one that convinces Brad, the older son, no, it's totally fine. We were just going to hang out and watch movies at my house. We can hang out and watch movies at your house because your brother's not feeling well.
Yeah. He's making like House of Cards-esque machinations in real time. He's coming home with Brad just to like do whatever, stop by, and then he sees, the parents are leaving. They're going to this Cable Ace Awards thing. I'm going to
start... Not the Cable Ace Awards. That's a real thing. It's very specifically this off-brand version of it, but it's something that rolls off the tongue just like the Cable Ace Awards, like the Cable Achievement Awards or something. Yes.
And so he's calculating like, why don't we just stay and do our homework and watch that movie here instead of my place? And then this is the same slow rolling we saw in our, Party When the Parents Are Away episode. It starts as, have a few people over.
How about
these
two girls?
That cute girl you like. Yeah, why don't we have her come over? Oh, she has a few friends, and one thing leads to another. Now, again, cross-pollinating the hell out of this thing. The two girls that show up, it's Paige and Bridget, right? Those
Marla
are the initial...
Sokolov, who is Stephanie's nemesis in multiple episodes on Full House.
She's Gia from Full House. We talked about her with was she caught smoking? It was something where she got in trouble and she ended up giving like a teary speech in the middle of the hallway.
I think it was something about bullying. Was it a bullying episode? Because they like bullied each other, and then Stephanie felt bad that even though that she was like getting her comeuppance, she did feel bad that she made her feel bad.
Yeah, she's sort of like the Nelson Muntz of the Full House middle school girls realm. But yeah, she's Brittany or Paige here. I wasn't sure which is which. But then they immediately show up with lots of kids, and we're off to the races with that trope of it's a party. The parents are going to call on the phone, and they have to do some
everybody be quiet, parent alert, the phone's ringing.
Yeah, but I will say, the crux of this episode, it's cutting back and forth between the awards where they keep losing to Irma and then the party progressing, and Brad is making time with this girl. This is not a Richie Cunningham situation where he needs all kinds of advice and how do I work up the courage to make my move. It's like scene 1, the girl shows up, scene 2, they're making out in the corner.
That's right. And so he kind of stops paying attention to what's going on because he's just roaming around the house, finding little corners to make out with this girl. And same with Jason and Marla Sokolov. They keep finding little places to tuck in and make out as well. And this is, again, awkward dancing.
Well, this party has a big difference from all of our other Halloween parties. Nobody's dressed up. The kids are all too cool for school, right?
Which is so weird because that is like that is not at all how you would do it,
here's
right?
the
Like
thing.
you would show up in your Halloween costume.
Yeah, I mean, basically, it's not a Halloween party. These kids
it's
are
a
all
makeout party.
just too cool for Halloween. We did mention youngest son
Mark has an ear infection.
He has an ear infection, so he's homesick. He can't go trick or treating. Randy has gone out trick or treating. He's at that age where like he's just barely young enough that he still wants to do that.
I love how you say that. I went trick or treating like in my neighborhood.
Yeah, fair enough.
Until
I'm
I was
honestly just describing
like,
what
in
the
college.
world the show is presenting. It's saying Brad's too old for it. He's moved on to chasing girls, and Randy, yes, wants to go. He's a werewolf too.
Yeah,
right. But
he
most of the
just
time,
he doesn't have his head on, just
Yeah.
like Joni doesn't have her mask on the whole time.
So when he comes back and he's wandering around the party as a werewolf with no werewolf head on, he looks like the costume that kids used to do when we were kids, I remember. And
Hobo.
it's definitely gone out of fashion. Yes, he looks like a hobo.
Yes, we've talked about hobo on
It
this
is
podcast before.
wild to me that a Halloween costume was just like, you could be anything. You could be a spaceman,
we've
an
talked
alien, a
about this.
monster. I want to be an adult who's down on his luck. I want to be a guy who's had his house repossessed and his...
Well, so we've talked about this on this podcast. My friend Stephanie had a like her birthday party when she turned, I don't know, 10, 11, 12, somewhere around there. Her birthday party was a hobo party, and we all came dressed up as hobos. And it was more about like not dressing up like, you know, your standard street person, but more just, hey, remember the Great Depression? Remember how people used to go hop on trains and ride the rails?
Sure.
That was kind of the thing. Not that I'm defending it at all.
No, and that was when people were hobos for Halloween. Yes, it was that old-timey Depression era hobo. It still is just
the handkerchief on a stick.
So Randy, yeah, he looks like a hobo because he's just walking around in like a dusty old like blazer, and he gets bullied. Like he gets thrown out of the party.
The kids immediately steal his candy, and when he tries to fight back, they pick him up because they're bigger than him and chuck him in the backyard.
So I would honestly say that this episode is a better like instance of the
party when parents are home.
Than the Halloween trope. It fits all of those.
Then you have, so the only reason we see Randy getting tossed into the backyard is because Brad has noticed this looming pumpkin head on the other side of the fence.
Yes. Again, terrifying. Not on the level of Zeke the plumber from Salute Your Shorts last year, but still scarier than any of the mainstream horror movies in the 90s. This is much scarier than Leprechaun or Chucky or Hellraiser.
It's Wilson with
a pumpkin head.
With a pumpkin, like plastic pumpkin on his head.
Glowing eyes.
And then his Wilson hat on top of it.
Yes.
And that's what's peeking over the fence. So like, the whole thing with Home Improvement is that Wilson, you only ever see his eyes. And as the seasons go on.
They cheat sometimes.
Exactly. And this is the cheat this time. So he's peeking over the fence like he normally does, except for he's got this pumpkin head on. And Brad sees him, and the other kids are like, what the hell is that? That's scary. And he's like, yeah, that's really scary. That's the thing that could get me busted by my parents.
Yes.
I'll be right back. And goes outside, has, instead of Tim having the heart-to-heart with Wilson in this episode, you have Brad doing it, and he does the same thing that Tim usually does. He throws out some random quote from some, Wilson always gives like some really well-respected philosopher or whatever, and Tim is like, well, so-and-so.
Marv Albert said that made the best man win.
So-and-so in Sports Illustrated said, and that's what Brad does.
Yeah, but the party has spiraled out of control. Like, it fits that trope exactly. And
except for Brad's not too worried about it because he's making out with this girl.
Yeah, it's not one of those things where, like, they've, like, wrecked... Well, actually, it sort of is. Well, they explain later, there's cigarette butts all over the house and everything. But, yeah, Wilson, he basically asks Wilson not to tell his parents. And Wilson is like, you've put me in a dilly of a pickle here, young Brad. And I don't know if... Do they really settle on it? Like, it ends up being a moot point because Tim and Jill come home.
I think what Wilson, I think the way it leaves it is Wilson is saying, it's better for you to tell the truth.
You've gotta
and usually
face the
these
music.
things find a way of being found out anyway. And that's kind of how that scene ends. And then I can't remember if he's back inside making out with his girlfriend or the girl that he's with when the parents get back.
He's making time, as I put, with the
or
girl.
if he was still outside.
No, he's making out with the girl when they come home and kind of tap him on the shoulder. But here's the thing. You can tell that the writers of this home improvement episode think Halloween is lame and like we should laugh at people in costumes, because not only do you have all of the teenagers being too cool to get dressed up for Halloween, on the adult side, there is so much humor that they try to milk from the fact that the adults are dressed up.
They're both, so Al and his girlfriend and
they've decided to ditch the awards
right
early.
but they don't, they end up staying because they win,
but that's why.
No, what I was saying is they do couples costumes,
right? But I'm just saying the reason they change into them is because they wouldn't be caught dead in their crazy Halloween costumes at this awards banquet.
No, it's a black tie affair. Everyone's all dressed up, they're in suits, they're in tuxes.
Right.
So they go to change because the woman, that Irma woman, has won, 15 out of 17 awards. And so they are going one at a time to the restroom to change when the last award comes up. And Tim is on his way out the door to go change when they announce tool time. So he hollers back to the bathroom to say, "Hey, Al, get out here, shake a leg or whatever, shake your tail and get out here." And then Al walks out and he is in a full mouse, costume.
And sure, it's funny, but I'm just you compare this to some of the other shows we talk about where it's Halloween episode, everyone's dressed up as something funny. It goes without saying. In this one, it's Tim and Al have to go up and give a speech. Tim is dressed as what? Do you remember?
Well, he's in his regular clothes then. You don't see his costume until later on.
So it's only Al dressed as the mouse, and you could just tell the show thinks it's so funny.
The show thinks it's so funny that instead of a blooper like they usually put at the end of the episode as the button, they just replayed this part of the episode where Al is giving his speech and makes references to having his tail tucked between his legs and living in a hole in the wall because he's wearing a mouse costume and everyone, is
and
laughing.
Conversely, Tim is always saying things like, Al is a man of pure dignity. And it's just clearly supposed to be isn't this the most humiliating thing a person could do? Wear a mouse outfit on Halloween.
That is so not how I took it.
But
I just thought that it was they are not going to give budget to costumes.
No, but again, just so much of the humor of that scene is them talking about dignity and stuff and being undermined by the fact that he's wearing a mouse outfit. And then when Tim and Jill get home and they're in their silly costumes, it's the same thing.
Well, but wait, you didn't get to Elaine or whatever, the girlfriend, Al's girlfriend. Yeah. She is a piece of cheese.
She's cheese.
So she comes running out of the bathroom to give him a hug and kiss before he goes up on stage, and they can't because she's a wedge of cheese, and then his little hood with the ears falls down, and so they have to just kind of hurry away. And then they have her in this very strange shot for the next 2 times we see her. She's halfway behind a plant.
Huh.
It was so there's a fern halfway in front of her face and on top of her cheese costume. Yeah. She's hiding behind a fern.
Yeah, I did not notice
It was so weird. I was why are we showing this?
I just felt like that same vibe continued when Tim and Jill get home and they're lecturing Brad about having the party, and it's played for such hilarity that they're dressed in these silly costumes.
And she's a dragon.
Yeah, and so it's not like these other shows where it's sort of assumed yes, adults can be dressed up for Halloween too. I feel like in this world of Tool Time, I don't know if it's the cynicism of the mid-90s or something, but it just is like an adult trying to have any sense of like dignity or, you know, like trying to seem like they know what they're talking about or whatever will be totally like a comedic contrast if they're wearing a Halloween outfit.
I mean, sure. I think you're thinking it's way more deep than it actually is. They do Halloween episodes on Home Improvement every single year.
Yeah.
And every single year they are, you know, in costumes. This year they went with these sort of cartoony, ridiculous costumes rather than, you know, like we saw in Step by Step or some of our others, more like functional costumes or sexy costumes that people would normally wear. But they definitely went for silly, right? Like Jill is in a dragon costume that looks like green Barney the dinosaur.
Yeah, and she looks like Britta last week in
but
Community,
not
right?
because she looks like a cartoon dinosaur. And Tim keeps referring to her as Puff.
Yeah.
Like Puff the Magic Dragon. And so, yeah. And then also, you know, they see kids with cigarettes. So the Puff thing comes back to, you know, that. And then Jill's so mad that she's breathing fire and all this stuff. But it is a funny moment when you can't tell. I mean, you know, it's Jill, but both of them, their faces are fully covered.
Yeah.
And, you know, because he's a knight and he's got a full mask on. The internet says that is parts of that are Richard Gere's costume from First Night or some movie that apparently was like filmed around that same time. Anyway, but so Jill is in this like cartoon dinosaur costume that's supposed to be a dragon, and she's just yelling at the kids, and there's no moving mouth or anything like that. It's just like, you know, when you go to one of these theme parks and or you're in Times Square and the you know, the creepy Elmo is just staring at you.
Yeah.
But yeah, she's screaming at the kids through this dragon costume, and it's a funny juxtaposition.
Yeah, and that's, you know, he gets in trouble. Everyone get out. Brad's grounded, and that's kind of it. Like, I feel like Home Improvement episodes often have that arc when they're focused on the kids. Like, the kids try to get away with something, they fail. You know, there's like a little bit of lesson learning, finger wagging, and we move on.
Yeah, they have a little scene at the end where now it's like the next day or the weekend or whatever. Brad is, fully grounded, and he is out raking the leaves in the backyard. And when he comes in, he's gonna have to do this chore and that chore or whatever. And this actually was one of the rare, I felt like, really genuine moments that I've ever seen on this Home Improvement show, where I definitely would not have identified with this bit as a kid watching this show, but it was really interesting. They had Jill and Tim, and they're unified for a change because this episode wasn't about them bickering with each other. And they're sitting in they're standing in the kitchen. They're watching Brad kind of go through his punishment, and they're like, "Oh, what are we gonna do with this kid?" You know. And then they start saying, "Man, my mom wished this on me. She said, I can't wait for you to grow up and have a kid just like you." And then they're sort of kind of commiserating with each other that they both were just like this. And it was just this sort of rite of passage that you lie to your parents and you try to get away with things and you throw a party when the parents aren't at home. And they're kind of like, well, did we do the right thing? I don't know. We just got to keep trying. Okay. And it was such a real like adult parenting moment of like, yeah, I don't know if I'm doing this right. I'm probably failing, but at least we're trying and failing together. Like we'll just keep trying.
Yeah. So for Home Improvement, I feel like that's a success.
Yeah.
I will say that frankly, this was not the episode I thought it was. You know, you mentioned Home Improvement is, like many sitcoms, it's one of those that everyone loves the Halloween episodes, and they made lots of them. And I remember there being one that I liked at the time that was about this like creepy lady that was stalking Tim or something. And I just knew it took took place in a Halloween party. And so when I saw this one pop up on some, best Halloween episodes type lists, and I saw it was a party one, I just kind of assumed, oh, that's got to be it. So I guess we'll leave that for the future because, yeah, this ended up being like a party on Halloween that was sort of not like, if anything, the Halloween party is whatever Jill and Tim went to that we didn't even see.
Well, that they didn't get to go to because Jill called and heard all the stuff going on at home and was like,
so wherever Al and his girlfriend went dressed as cheese.
I think they said it was Ed's party.
Yeah, so some colleague of theirs or something.
Yeah.
So yeah, they went dressed as cheese and mouse. That's the real Halloween party. That's
what we should do this year, babe.
Yeah, maybe. All right, let's finish it up with Parks and Rec.
Season 4, Episode 5, Meet and Greet.
Yeah, we've covered Parks and Rec a handful of times. We really like this show, but I will say it kind of consistently proves to be one of the hardest ones to talk about. I feel like Parks and Rec...
Well, it's hard to drop into.
Yeah, I think Parks and Rec and 30 Rock tend to be the ones, even more so than The Office and New Girl and some of the other new ones. Parks and Rec and 30 Rock are just always this kind of smorgasbord of stuff is happening. And like, there's always this overarching story for the season of Aziz Ansari's trying to do this thing and Leslie's trying to do that thing. And here's what, Andy and April are going through and stuff. And it's like, it is just, to their credit, they've developed way past the old sort of sitcom, normal 3-act ABC type thing. And so it is just like, it always just tends to wash over me and give me a few laughs. And, it tends to be the hardest to sort of fit into our framing.
Yeah, I don't necessarily agree with you on 30 Rock, though. I feel like the thing to me that makes 30 Rock hard to fit into the framing, it's got these fantastical elements. It's a little bit more absurd in some ways. Whereas this one, I feel like it's because of ongoing storylines and characters that you have to deeply understand to not find them really annoying when you just drop in, right? Like when you drop into a show like this and you haven't been watching it and you're not really sure, wait, where are we? What's happening? Every one of these characters is like John Ralphio. They all are annoying.
Well, not Nick Offerman. Nobody could be annoyed by him. But yeah, I know what you're saying. To that point, the main sort of ongoing story in this, at least one of them, is Aziz Ansari's got his weird 720 brand thing. His character is...
Entertainment 720.
Yeah, his character is a buffoon and an entrepreneur. So he's one of these sitcom guys that's like, oh, let me tell you about my newest thing. Let me tell you about my new invention or company or venture or whatever.
Never an invention because he's never trying to do anything.
Enough. And so he, Leslie, he's sort of facilitating this event for Leslie, but he's kind of outshining her and causing all these problems with her. I don't want to get too bogged down in that aspect of it.
She's trying to, we're in the season now where she's already on city council. She's, run and won. So we're beyond that, campaign season and everything. Both Ben and Rob Lowe's character are now full-time working there.
Yeah.
All of that is established. And Amy Poehler's Ben and Leslie aren't together yet, right? Mm-hmm. So Leslie's having this, she needs to make, as a politician, she needs to make overtures to the local business community.
Yeah.
And Tom is her conduit, right? So he says, hey, let's do a, kind of Chamber of Commerce event that will feature you with, Entertainment 720 branding. And like you said, he doesn't know, he just doesn't understand how to do anything. He puts, exactly. It's no longer her event. It's now his event. But then we find out later it's because he is going bankrupt.
So that's what's going on there. And then eventually, that sort of, does it implode and Leslie joins the main Halloween party, or those stories remain separate?
Never come together.
Okay. So yeah, what we're really here to talk about has more to do with Ben, Adam Scott's character. He's living with Andy and April, Chris Pratt and Aubrey Plaza. He moved in with them. Like, briefly, what's going on?
I don't remember. I think it's his house, right? Even though they say it's their house.
But it seems like maybe it's just his, cuck personality, but he's, confined to a room.
Right. So, what it feels like, because, again, I don't remember, but it seems like he's renting a room from them.
Yeah.
So,
I feel like he had some situation.
Yeah, maybe they're still thinking they were going to be there temporarily or whatever. But, he is renting a room from them for whatever reason. Again, this is why this show's hard to drop into, because I don't remember. Yeah. And so they're having the sort of normal roommate squabbles that anyone would have, except for Ben is very conflict averse and won't say he's upset about anything, will just sort of passive aggressively, Jay's nodding and grinning at me, because during this episode, I'm kicking him, being like, that's you! That's you!
Yes, I struggled with this very much throughout my life. Is just being the kind of person that won't say hey, knock it off, turn it down up there or something.
I'm trying to work. It would be nice if you let me know ahead of time that you're going to have a Halloween party. He absolutely is incapable of saying that. So then he just sort of is stewing in his own crankiness that there's this Halloween party going on, and he's obstinately refusing to take part in it at all. So he comes out and he's using the printer and he's printing some stuff out. And while he's waiting for it, he goes over and has a piece of candy. And April, so Andy and April have decided to throw the Halloween party. That's what we've got. And everybody's there except Leslie and Tom. And Retta, for some reason, isn't in this episode, right? So anyway, Ben's standing at the printer, and Chris Pratt's character is like, hey, I know you're upset. Tell me what's wrong. And he's like, no. And so then he goes over to get a piece of candy, and April's not having any of it. She's like, you don't want to take part of the party? You don't get any candy. And she smacks the candy out of his hand, and he's like, fine. And he walks in the other room, and then Andy is like, nope, that's it. You don't talk about anything? Well, in my house, we wrestle it out. And then that's when I started kicking Jay again, because that's me. I'm like, come on, we'll fight and punch. We'll wrestle it out. You better talk to me. If you're not going to talk to me, I'm going to tickle you until you talk to me. And so that's basically what Andy's doing. And he puts Ben in a headlock, and he walks him around for the rest of the party, nearly the rest of the party, in a headlock, saying, if you don't tell me what's wrong, you don't get out of this headlock.
Yeah. And so, we get, in a sense, this is a rare time where, a Parks and Rec type newer sitcom does sort of have a clean, Full House-esque ending in that sense, where Ben, Adam Scott's character, kind of comes out with it and is just like, look, you just need to respect me. It just bothers me when you don't use common sense, when you're inconsiderate, and really, of course, it's him. Everyone understands, that Andy, Chris Pratt, is just a big knucklehead, and of course he does annoying things and stuff. It really is Ben that has needed to learn the lesson of, you need to come out with what's bothering you.
Right.
And that's
because he snaps. After a while in the headlock, he, Andy is like, hey, come on, I'm tired of this headlock situation. We need to fight this out. And Ben's like, you want to fight? Fine, let's fight. And then they start wrestling in the middle of the party, and Ben kicks his leg to get away and brings his heel down on Andy's nose. Yeah. And Andy's like, oh, my nose is broken. Good job, dude. Okay, I gotta go to the hospital. Let's go. And so he and April and Ben go off to the hospital together. And that's where they finally have the heart to heart. And he's like, you didn't have to break my nose. You could have just told me that.
Yeah. Yeah. And so that's it. That's the story of the episode. And so I feel like now that we've got that out of the way, that's what is good about these newer shows like Parks and Rec, is that when they want to do a Halloween party episode, the Halloween party starts in like minute 1, and it's just the whole thing. Like, it's cutting back and forth between this other story.
Yeah, and there's 2 other stories happening at the Halloween party.
Yeah, there's lots of fun stuff happening. We get, just costume-wise, we have Jerry, the big older guy, is Mr. Potato Head.
Yep.
Right, and so when his daughter shows up and Rob Lowe is making out with his daughter, Audrey turns his, like, smile upside down to a Mr. Frowny Potato Head. What else? Ron is a pirate, right?
Yes.
Nick Offerman.
He says, this is my Halloween costume, because he wears the same one every year.
Yeah, Chris Pratt goes, oh, yeah, cool, you were a pirate last time. And he goes, yes, that's right. This is my Halloween costume. And, he's got the most fun subplot, I think, where he discovers all of these horrible makeshift, repairs and things that Andy has made. All these things in their house are falling apart, electrical, wiring coming out of the walls and whatnot. And so he decides, I'm going to fix everything that's wrong.
He says, I never gave them a wedding present because I, feel like wedding presents this is where he's, his life view about relationships and love comes through. Yeah. He's like, those are just fuel for the divorce fire later on. So no reason to do that, but I should give them something. And this is a good thing I can give them. So he realizes that he asks Andy for his tools. And Andy is like, yeah, the tools are right up there, and hands him a J. Marks branded plastic bag full of a hammer.
Plastic. Mine is like a burlap, eco-friendly shopping bag. But I related to this so much. This toolbox, quote unquote, is this bag of random ass stuff.
Which is, so when we were moving, I was like, Jay, hey, can we kind of combine our tools? Because I have a toolbox and a tool bag, and you have this like random shopping bag of stuff that you refer to as your tool bag. And it would be nice if we kept all the tools in one place. And he didn't want to give me access to this bag because everything I need is in there. I know where it is.
Yeah, Andy's got...
When I finally got to look in this bag, there was, Andy has a baseball card. Jay 100% had a Pokemon card in his bag.
I did not have. Andy has a flashlight full of jelly beans or something. I didn't go to that comical extreme, but yeah, I had a bag that had like a hammer and a wrench and stuff, but then also like, just like a little bag of like tacks and it had some like melatonin patches that you had given me.
There are melatonin patches in there.
Sleep.
There's all sorts of stuff that aren't tools. Like I was like, what do you need these bungee cords for?
But so he doesn't really have a toolbox, but Ron makes do. He fixes something with the help of Rashida Jones's character, Anne, and she kind of like gets the bug, like she finds it satisfying, and he's like, yes, you're experiencing the satisfaction of a job well done. It is quite enchanting, isn't it? And so she like joins him, and this is my favorite part of the episode, when he comes out into the living room or wherever everyone's hanging out, and he's like, all right, we're turning off the lights. And Rashida Jones is like his assistant. She's got the big like wrench kind of like...
Except for not the big wrench. It's like a small wrench, but she's carrying it like it's one of these big plumber's wrenches.
Slung over her shoulder. She's like, all right, people, we're going to go dark. All right, we're going to go dark for 10. We're connecting the fuse hose. All right. And he's like, it's just the fuse. It's just the fuse. All right.
Nothing to worry about here, people. Nothing to worry about.
Very fun.
It is weird. This is the episode that has one of my favorite memes of all time, which is Nick Offerman in Lowe's, actual Lowe's, and somebody comes up and is like, hi, can I help you build something today? And he's like, I know more than you. Keep moving.
Yeah. What else is there? Rob Lowe's character, Chris, he's very funny. He's Sherlock Holmes, and he's like...
He's dating Jerry's daughter,
Yeah.
but he doesn't invite her to the party because he thought it would make Jerry uncomfortable to see him out on a date with his daughter. And Jerry's like, no, absolutely, it's fine. Call her, invite her. It's a Halloween party, you know? And so he does, and then immediately Jerry regrets it because they are like sexy humpy dancing on the floor or like in the dance floor, and then they're making out on the couch. And basically every time like Jerry starts to have a good time, he turns around and sees, you know, his daughter's boobs or his daughter being groped or something.
I just like the way Rob Lowe as Sherlock Holmes was like deducing everybody's costume and like smoking his little pipe and going like, yes, you are a noted UFC legend so-and-so. I'm not familiar with who this person is, but he knew who Chris Pratt's...
he's some famous guy, Chuck Latimer or something like that.
He looked like a white Mr. T. He had like the thick mohawk and the whatever. But yeah, I found that bit funny that he's going around as Sherlock Holmes telling everybody who their costume is. But yeah, so like everybody has stuff to do here except, you know, like we said, Amy Poehler and Aziz Ansari don't get to be in the party.
Yeah. And I don't remember, like I said, I don't remember seeing Donna much in this episode. Maybe she just had the episode off. She was off doing something else. She's a stand-up, so she was maybe on tour or something. So it ends right with the hospital scene, and they just kind of, you know, get everything out in the open, and they decide that they're going to be better roommates to each other, right? That's it?
Life goes on, yeah. Like I said, this was fun in the way that those modern shows are. They get a lot done, like lots of bits and lots of scenes squeezed in. It doesn't have any of the stuff of like planning the party and, you know, any of that. It's just like, oh yeah, we do a Halloween party. You know, there's a funny scene at the very beginning of Chris Pratt going like, we're going to have spiders and pumpkins and stuff, and Aubrey Plaza's like, and blood orphans.
Yes.
I want blood orphans.
They had a whole, you could tell that they were just like, you know, doing the thing that they do on the show, improvising, and she was getting closer and closer to cracking people up.
Yeah, so Halloween parties, what do we think? From the 50s sort of to the 2015s. Thoughts, favorites, worsts, in-betweens.
So honestly, I didn't really like any of these episodes. They were kind of all ho-hum. I feel like as Halloween episodes go, none of these gave it their all, you know? And our page for Halloween episodes is like 4 tabs long, you know what I mean? It takes up 4 tabs on our Excel spreadsheet. So there are really great Halloween episodes out there, really good party episodes out there, I'm sure. And we just somehow settled on ones that were kind of okay. Best watch, Parks and Rec, because of the way that they're, you know, ad-libbing, improvising, having fun with it, that there's so many stories going on. I think just it's a higher quality show. Nostalgia perspective, I really had fun with Step by Step. I know you hated it, but that one was my nostalgia pick. Yeah, but these episodes were to me.
Yeah, I largely agree with you. I feel like things kind of didn't break our way with a lot of these. Like I said, the Home Improvement, I kind of had it mixed up with another one where like the whole family was at a party. I don't agree. I think Happy Days did sink its teeth into it, no pun intended. I think that they did.
It didn't kick it for me.
Yeah,
you know?
It's like, honestly, it's not like I thought, oh my God, that was the most amazing episode ever of Happy Days. But I can't complain that it wasn't Halloweeny enough or that they didn't have fun with it. There was a lot, you know, you had the Greasers, you had the Alfred Hitchcock, you know, Ralph Malph, Alfred Hitchcock. You had the TV thing where they're watching the scary movie, and then all the stuff at the party and the bobbing for apples and the kids in their get-ups, you know, Fonzie as the Lone Ranger and all that.
Yeah,
like,
you're not wrong that they did things that worked. I think
And just the whole thing
Step by Step did things. They just didn't necessarily work.
But Step by Step was more like, oh, we're having a Halloween party. At least Happy Days had the like, oh, the old Simpson place is haunted. Like just, I don't know. It made it more of a thing to me. Like, oh, the character thinks there's a ghost and all of that. And then, look, I said my piece about Step by Step. I think it just... Like I've said before, this is why we needed to get other perspectives in there, because by the mid to late 90s, it's another family, but, they're divorcees, or like that's not enough. And so they're scrapping together, pieces that they ripped off of other shows.
Yeah, it was a patchwork of all other sitcoms, like you said, for sure.
And definitely, yes, Parks and Rec is very fun. But yeah, just like we keep saying, it's not like, it would be fun to sit down and watch a season of Parks and Rec, or like to like watch a handful of them in an afternoon, and like you really get more from it, I think, than just popping in, where it's still fun because Nick Offerman is hilarious and Aubrey Plaza is hilarious, but it doesn't have that same thing of like, all right, everybody, here's the one where they throw the Halloween party, So yeah, so much for the Halloween parties. What are we talking about next week?
Well, we're going to visit all of the sitcoms of the lovely Matthew Perry.
Yeah, the late, great Matthew Perry, all of his non-Friends outings.
That's right. He had several after Friends, but before Friends, he did Home Free.
Mm-hmm. So what are we watching?
Well, we're going to watch, like I said, Home Free, and then Mr. Sunshine, Go On, and The Odd Couple.
Yep, all of the late, great Matthew Perry's non-Chandler performances. We'll be talking all things Perry next week, and until then, we will consider this segment of the sitcom study concluded. Thank you for listening to the Sitcom Study. Tell us what you think or share your own TV tropes and topic ideas by sending a self-addressed stamped email to sitcomstudypodcast@gmail.com or find us on Facebook or Instagram. And if you like the show, consider leaving a rating or review on your podcast app. It helps us boost those precious Nielsen ratings. The Sitcom Study is recorded in front of a live studio dog.